I'm 79 years old, and there's one conversation I've been avoiding for almost 50 years. At this point, avoiding it has cost me more than having it ever would have. That wasn't obvious when I was younger. Back then, avoidance felt harmless, temporary, something you could always undo later with the right words delivered at the right moment. I believed time was patient. I know now that it isn't. I wake up earlier these days, not because I want to. My body just does it on its own, like it's following instructions I never agreed to. Most mornings, I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that goes cold before I finish it. I don't rush anymore. There's nowhere I need to be and no one waiting for me to arrive. The house is quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. There's a difference you only notice once you've lived long enough to hear it. In a quiet house, every sound grows larger than it should. The refrigerator humming, the clock ticking in the other room, the soft creak of the floor when I shift my weight in the chair. These sounds don't ask anything of you, they just remind you that you're here, still here, and when nothing interrupts you, there's a lot of time to think. When you're young, you imagine thinking as something you'll do later. When things slow down, when life finally gives you space to reflect. But thinking doesn't wait for permission, it waits for silence. And silence always finds you in the end. I'm not telling this story because I expect forgiveness. There's no one left to give it. I'm telling it because I'm closer to the end than the beginning, and the truth has weight. It presses harder the longer you carry it alone. Some truths don't shout. They sit quietly, waiting for the moment when you no longer have distractions to keep them at a distance. This is one of those. The conversation I avoided wasn't dramatic. There was no shouting, no betrayal, no secret that would have shattered anything instantly. It was just words that needed to be said, and fear that convinced me they could wait. I was in my early 30s when it first became necessary. Back then, life felt crowded in a good way. Work, responsibilities, people depending on me. My days were full, and that fullness felt like proof I was doing something right. I was married, newly, at least it felt that way. We lived in a small place with thin walls and neighbors who argued louder than we did. We could hear their fights through the drywall, plates clattering, voices raised. I remember thinking we were doing better than that. I worked long hours, not because I loved the job, but because it felt like progress. Each year, I told myself I was building something solid, dependable, respectable. I believed forward motion meant success. I didn't yet understand that you can keep moving forward and still leave important things behind. The conversation was with my younger brother. We grew up close, not emotionally close, but physically. Shared rooms, shared clothes, shared silence. Our family wasn't the kind that talked much. Feelings weren't discussed, they were absorbed. You learned people by watching them, not by asking questions. He was different from me, softer maybe, more hesitant. He noticed things I walked past without thinking. He felt things longer. I was the older one, the one who had it together. At least, that's what everyone said. When you're given a role early, you don't question it. You perform it. You become it. When our father died, something shifted between us. Grief rearranges people. It exposes needs you didn't know how to name. He needed something from me then. I knew it. Not money, not advice, something quieter, something that required me to admit I didn't have answers either. I didn't know how to give that without breaking character. So I stayed in it. He tried to talk to me, not directly. He'd linger after family dinners, ask small questions that were really big ones. How are you holding up? Do you ever think about before? I brushed them off, changed the subject, told him we'd talk another time. Another time became years. I didn't think I was being cruel. I thought I was being practical. I told myself he'd figure things out on his own, that we both had lives to manage, that talking wouldn't change anything anyway. Every time I saw him, the conversation hovered between us like a door we pretended wasn't there. We talked about weather, about work, about nothing. Then life did what life always does. It filled the space. Kids came, bills grew, responsibilities stacked neatly on top of one another. My calendar stayed full enough to keep guilt quiet. When I thought about him, it was usually late at night, when excuses are easier to make and sleep feels like a solution. I told myself he knew I cared. I told myself silence wasn't the same as neglect. Looking back now, those sound like weak defenses. But at the time, they felt reasonable. That's how avoidance survives. It dresses itself up as logic. Years passed quietly. No big falling out, no clear ending, just distance growing in inches, not miles. I missed his wedding, not intentionally, a work trip, bad timing. I sent a gift instead. I remember standing in a store, trying to pick something meaningful and realizing how little I actually knew about his life anymore. I missed the birth of his first child. I found out weeks later. I told myself I'd visit soon. Soon never came. When our mother got sick, we stood on opposite sides of her hospital bed, polite, careful, still avoiding the words that had aged between us. I remember one afternoon clearly. She was asleep, machines humming softly. The room smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Sunlight filtered through half-closed blinds. He looked at me and opened his mouth like he was about to say something important. I interrupted him, asked if he'd eaten. That's the moment I returned to the most, not because it was loud, but because it was final. After she died, we spoke even less. Grief makes everything fragile. It felt easier to stay distant than risk breaking something already cracked. I don't know when he stopped trying. I only know that at some point, the space between us became normal. Time has a way of turning unfinished things into permanent ones. The turning point came when I was 61. I remember because I had just retired. I thought life was finally opening up, that I'd have time now, time for conversations, time for repair. That's when he got sick, fast. Cancer doesn't negotiate. By the time I visited, he was thin and tired and still somehow gentle. He smiled when he saw me, and that smile carried more grace than I deserved. We talked about small things, his kids, the weather, the same old nothing. The conversation sat between us, heavier than ever. I could feel it pressing on my chest. I wanted to say I was sorry, not for anything specific, just sorry. For the distance, for the silence, for choosing ease over honesty. But the words felt too late. Like showing up after a house has already burned down. He died 2 weeks later. At his funeral, I realized something quietly devastating. No one expected me to speak. I wasn't close enough anymore for that. There are losses you grieve publicly, and then there are the ones that happen entirely inside you. This was the second kind. What can't be fixed isn't the relationship, it's the chance to try, the moment where effort could have mattered. I replay conversations that never happened. I imagine versions of myself who chose discomfort instead of delay. That's the cruelest part. Nothing stopped me except my own hesitation. Now, at 79, people assume I've made peace with things. That time smooths the edges. It doesn't. It just removes the possibility of repair. I still think about the kitchen table we never sat at together, the walk we never took, the sentence that stayed trapped behind my teeth. If I'm speaking to you now, it's not to warn you. I don't believe in warnings anymore. I just want to say this quietly, from one human to another. If there's a conversation you keep postponing because it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient, understand what you're really trading. You're not trading comfort for discomfort. You're trading a chance for a memory that will haunt you. I thought there would always be another holiday, another phone call, another year. There wasn't. I live with that knowledge now, not dramatically, just steadily. Some mornings I still set out 2 cups of coffee by habit. I notice it, I put one back. If this meant something to you, you can sit with it for a while. You don't need to do anything about it today. As for me, I'll finish my coffee, watch the light change in the room, and carry the conversation I never had, a little more gently than before.